you, everyone. Have your attention, we'll get started. As I've mentioned on the PA, obviously you're in the auditorium and you're hearing the presentation live, but we also are live streaming this back to our classrooms as well, and hopefully those folks are coming online now also. So just like you are, you're going to have to be somewhat quiet in here, so obviously whatever sound is being picked up is the speaker, and it's being sent back to the classrooms as well. However, there's certainly a time for questions. We will encourage that also, and we've asked that the classrooms email Mrs. Capiello if they have questions, so those can be asked in here. So we're going to sit up straight here in the auditorium and back in the classroom as well. We're going to sit up straight. We're going to take out our earbuds, both ears. We're going to sit up straight nicely and put our feet firmly on the floor and focus in on the information being shared to us today. As you remember, a few weeks ago, back in September, guys in the back, we're going to quit with our candy bars, and we're going to focus in. Thank you. A few weeks ago, we had a speaker from the Sandy Hook Promise Foundation. Hear something, see something, say something idea, mindset, and we have, based on some state legislation, an opportunity throughout the school year to hear different aspects of the broad topic of mental health, and in terms of what we can do at the school level, how the community can support, and those aspects of things. So let me steal any more time from our presenter, but give her a big round of applause. And while she's starting her presentation, we're going to determine our technical glitches in the back as well. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Tori, and I'm with SMA Healthcare. And if anyone's never heard of that, then we're just a mental health and substance abuse facility. I run the prevention department, so that means that I'm on top of the latest data, stats. We go out and we give presentations to kids just like yourselves. We also give presentations to adults and run parenting programs and things like that. So in honor of Red Ribbon Week being this month, the schools thought it would be a great time to go in and give this same presentation to all the other middle and high schools in Volusia County just in this month. So you guys aren't the only ones getting this. Everyone else is getting the same information too. We are working on the presentation, but we'll just get started because that's the easiest thing to do. You guys get the information. So we're going to start out talking a little bit about health, just things that you guys generally know, you've heard all your life, and then we're going to talk about the 3 substances that are most commonly used amongst youth today, and then we'll just end it with a couple questions if we have time. Sounds fair enough? Okay, it's not too long. So, health. How can we remain healthy? How can we live a healthy lifestyle? Simple answers. Yeah. What is it? Vaccines, if that's what your family does. What else? Yes?
Watching what we eat.
Watching what we eat. So nutrition is a huge one. What else? So we've got watch what we eat, stay on top of our medical health, right? No junk food, watch what we eat. What? Exercise. So those are the main ones that we usually get. So we all know that we need to exercise. How many athletes do I have in here? Decent amount. That's so much more than any other school I've ever been to. Usually there's like 2 or 3 hands. And then who's planning on doing some kind of sport in college? Beyond college. There you go. So awesome. So we'll have a few superstars in the ranks after a while. So we know that we have to stay healthy by getting our bodies moving and staying on top of that. We know we have to stay healthy by eating right, so just not living on junk food, making sure you're getting the fresh fruits and vegetables. How many people actually say that they eat a healthy lifestyle? Close enough, right? Who just lives on chips? Or something close to it? Okay, so we've got a few of those too. So there's 2 that we didn't talk about and that we almost never hear, but they're some of the most important ones when it comes to healthy lifestyle. So number 1 is stress. So who knows about stress in here? Okay, almost every hand goes up, right? So we have to stay on top of our stress. Making sure that you're utilizing resources in the school, utilizing resources in the community, your parents or your family, your friends. If you feel like you're having too much stress, so that's a huge one on kids. It's a lot of stress. And then the other one that we don't think about a lot is our sleep health. What is our body doing while we're sleeping? It's recovering, right? If anyone is a sports fiend or definitely plays a lot of sports, then you know how you feel the next day after you work out, right? So your body is trying to recover, it's trying to build things. Hopefully we'll get this presentation up. But your body's trying to recover and rebuild your muscles after working out or just living your normal day. So sleep health is important. Are we getting enough sleep? Who in this room can say they get like 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night? Maybe 5 of you? Okay. So what is keeping us from getting that sleep? Right? What are we doing? What are we doing at night?
Homework.
Right? We're scrolling or we're playing video games or something like that. Definitely some sort of social media. So if we're scrolling and staying on those phones all night and we're not getting enough sleep, what is our body not doing at night? Recovering, which could definitely lead to a lot of that stress, right? So those are just some ways that we want to stay healthy. Going into the very first substance, which I guess we'll just get into, even though we don't have the PowerPoint, we'll try. All right, so the very first substance is the most widely used substance among youth today. So out of any other drug, it's used the most. What do you think it is? Ooh, caffeine's a good one, but that's not the one.
Vaping.
No, it's seemingly the least problematic. What's back there? No, not marijuana. Not nicotine. I'll just go ahead and say it. It's alcohol, right? So alcohol, the most widely used drug amongst youth today. Why do you think that alcohol is the most widely used? Definitely not because it tastes good. What else? Because you can always get it, right? Because it's everywhere, so it's so easily obtained. Where is alcohol? It's in corner stores, it's in regular mega stores, it's in most people's refrigerator at home. So alcohol is everywhere, it's so easily attainable, so therefore it's the most widely used. Now when we're talking about alcohol, how old do we have to be in order to legally purchase and consume it? 21. Everyone's looking for that 21st birthday. Why do we say that people have to be 21? Why is this a rule? Where did it come up with? Who came up with it? It's always the government, right? So scientists come up with, I almost said the government came up with it. So scientists come up with this number not to just keep you from having fun until you're 21. They come up with, yay! Is it there? Okay, let's start it from the beginning. I don't know what that random one is, but we'll start from the beginning. Nope, just from current slide. All right, and then let's jump through. We already talked about that. Talked about healthy lifestyle, alcohol and drugs. We're talking about that right now, so we can stop right there. So we know that you have to be 21 in order to legally purchase and drink alcohol, but this number was come up with by scientists and it's all based on your brain. So it's not that we just decided, oh, we don't want to let them have it until 21. No. That's depressing. Okay. So it's not that we don't want you to have it until you're 21, it's that your brain isn't developed enough to be able to process that alcohol and not have lasting effects. So by the time you're 21, for most people across the board, certain parts of your brain have developed enough in order to where, if you use it responsibly, it's not changing the way your brain is growing. So that's where we come up with those numbers. But alcohol, we know that it can hurt things. We know it can hurt your relationships, and we're not just talking girlfriends, boyfriends, or anything in between. We're talking about, family, friends, teachers, mentors, all of those relationships that are important for building over your life. And then it can hurt how you feel about yourself, whether or not we like to believe it or admit it out loud. We do care a lot about how we feel about ourselves or how other people feel about us. And then how you do in school and other activities, and definitely that quality of sleep. So let's move on. We'll get help. Okay, so alcohol, we already said, is the most widely used substance amongst youth. Each year, though, 189,000 emergency room visits and 4,300 deaths are the result of drinking alcohol underage and illegally. These emergency room visits are a lot, and they're not just simple emergency room visits. It's not I have a stomach ache and so I went. These are usually the alcohol poisoning visits, close to death, getting your stomach pumped. It takes a long time to recover, so these are really nasty visits. A couple little clicks will get us through this. Just gonna let the little ambulance go by. All right, so then on that first video, if you guys will play it, then we're gonna talk about how alcohol affects your brain. And it's just a short little video. Should be up there. You'll get it. There you go. We don't have any volume.
You should pause the video.
They're working on it, guys. Have some grace. All right, we want to get through these presentations, so let's just go straight to the PowerPoint and we'll just eliminate the videos. We'll make it work. Sorry guys, they were good videos too. All right, so we'll just pass through this video, but it's essentially talking about the effect on the brain, and it's only 2 minutes, but it's telling you that if you were to start drinking at this age, then you are 4 times more likely to develop a dependence on alcohol by the time you are older, past 21. What does the dependence mean? Addicted, right? So we don't want to develop that dependence. No one wakes up and says, oh, I want to be dependent on alcohol. But if you do start using at this age, then it's changing the way that your brain is growing over time. So let's talk about the physical effects of alcohol. We all know about the mental effects, and we'll talk about those in a second, but the physical effects are only these 4. So number 1, when you drink alcohol, when it goes into your bloodstream, there is a buzz. So that's in the first 1 to 2 serving sizes, and that's a really small amount of alcohol. It's not a cup, it's not a red Solo cup, it's like a tiny amount of alcohol, right? So the buzz does happen. When this happens, it's in your system. You can definitely feel effects from the alcohol, but not those negative ones. After the first 1 to 2 serving sizes, then we get into those negative effects. So number 1, alcohol is a depressant, not a stimulant. So everybody, when you think about someone being drunk, what do you immediately think about? When they're drunk, what are they doing? They're going crazy, right? Sometimes you might have a little bit of depression there, but for the most part, you're seeing parties, you're seeing people getting dressed up in scuba diving outfits, jumping off the roof into the pool. It's just crazy stuff happening when they're drinking. But the fact that alcohol is a depressant, not a stimulant, means that it goes into your system and it starts shutting down that neurological function. We know that it's a depressant by class because if you drink too much of it, do you stay up for 3 days or do you pass out? You pass out, right? No one can have too many and not pass out. All right, so then the fact that alcohol is a poison, so at its basic chemical level, it has no nutritional value for you whatsoever. It's just a poison. We know that it's a poison because if you drink too much, it starts to tear up your stomach, tear up your esophagus, tear up anything that it's touching. And if you drink too much, you get alcohol poisoning, right? And that results in all of those emergency room visits. So we know that it's a poison. And then, like we talked about before, you have neurological breakdown. So that just means that parts of your brain aren't talking to other parts of your brain. And then we know that it does this because people who drink too much kind of get dizzy, can't walk, can't drive a car, things like that. All right, next. Yep, and when you do those tests. All right, so physical effects of alcohol. We already talked about them, but this is just showing it on the human body. So these are things we know. When we study somebody who's drinking, we know that certain things happen in their body. Number 1, vision is blurred, speech is slurred. We know that alcohol is being absorbed in the stomach and the small intestine. So just things like that to keep in mind. Those are physical effects of alcohol. Next slide. Now, mental effects. That's an effect that is associated with a drug, whether or not the drug actually caused it. So think about it as a placebo effect. Has anyone ever heard of placebo? Right, should have. It's classical conditioning. So it makes you believe that it has an effect when it really doesn't. Now, the effects that are associated with alcohol are usually positive ones, right? Like the party is starting, you have friends, you're making friends, you're funny, you're the funniest person you know when you're drinking. So then it's estimated that 90% of the good things that you think happen when you're drinking, that's typically false. So those are mental effects. Why do we get the idea that alcohol causes all this fun? Where do we get it from?
TV.
Advertisements, right? That's a $500 billion industry a year. They're spending $500 billion to sell you alcohol. What does that say about what they're making off people buying it? They're making a ton more money, right? So in these commercials, by the time you're 18, you'll have seen 500,000 of them, all promoting alcohol equal fun. So alcohol, in any situation, is going to bring out the fun and the best in everyone. You can drink for 24 hours and you'll never feel it and your makeup won't even run. Is that realistic? No, we all know that alcohol eventually makes us throw up or pass out, right? So you have to understand when you're thinking about alcohol, are you thinking about it in a rational, healthy way? Next. Okay, so true or false? Drinking coffee, cold shower, eating, does that sober you up? Okay, go ahead and click. It's false. So one more click will tell us that the only thing that can sober us up after drinking is time. Unfortunately for you guys who are drinking illegally, if you are drinking, then that time will allow you to get caught or someone will have questions the next morning. So the only thing that's going to sober you up is time. Don't think you can get a coffee the next morning and you'll be fine. That alcohol has gone into your system. It has to get out now. All right, next. So alcohol poisoning, we're not going to spend a long time on this, but this is just that alcohol poisoning slide to let you know that if someone is drinking and exhibiting one or any more of these symptoms, then it's definitely an emergency. It's always appropriate to call 911. Now new legislation is in place where if you know that somebody's in danger of alcohol poisoning or passing away from overdose and you don't contact authorities, then you could be charged as well. So you have to be very careful with that. Protect yourself, protect other people. These are the symptoms. Next. All right, so short and long-term effects. That's pretty much going to be the theme of today, is how does it affect the brain and what are the short and long-term effects. So for alcohol, we know that it causes weird stuff happening in the beginning, right? So that slurred speech, the risky behavior, you might have an accident or an injury. But the long-term effects are the more complicated ones because alcohol is that one substance where detoxing from it, meaning getting it out of your body, is the absolute worst of any drug. So you think of crazy drugs like cocaine or methamphetamine, it must be terrible to come off of those, but alcohol is the worst. So more people die from withdrawal of alcohol than any other drug because it affects every single organ in your body. Next. Let's talk about marijuana. So, marijuana is the dried leaves, flowers, stems, and seeds from the cannabis plant. It contains mind-altering chemicals like THC, which THC, we all know what THC is. That's the chemical that makes you want to smoke in the first place. It gives that high. So THC, and it contains like 400 other chemicals that we obviously can't mention. So marijuana is the most widely used illicit drug in the United States. Although, is it illegal everywhere now? No. Is it illegal medically in most places? No. So we say illicit very, very cautiously because it is a standard now that it's becoming legal in many different places. Let's say tomorrow, Florida had no guidelines on this. Let's say marijuana is legal medically and it's legal recreationally. Can you guys smoke it? No, not legally, right? So for the purposes of today, let's take off medical, recreational, legality. Let's take that off the table and just say it's illegal for you guys to smoke it anyway, because what age would that be appropriate? Somewhere past 18, right? None of you are there, unfortunately. So, marijuana, we're just going to talk about some facts surrounding it. Some of them might be a little new to you. And after that, you just kind of have to make your own informed decision. So, next one. We're going to skip the video because I assume we don't have any volume. Okay, so marijuana affecting your brain, affecting your body. So short-term effects of marijuana are distorted perceptions, poor motor skills, but the more important ones are that increased heart rate and the anxiety paranoia problems. So it's a misconception, generally across the board, that marijuana calms people down, that that's what it's meant to do. So the second that you take it in, inhale it, or have it in any form, that you're going to be calm. but overwhelmingly most people have increased heart rate and they have paranoia of some form. So when you couple that with any underlying heart problems or anxiety problems or asthma or anything like that, then you're kind of creating a disaster. So we're just going to talk about the misconceptions. So misconception number one, marijuana calms you down. Then we go into those long-term effects where you have memory problems, sleep problems, chronic cough, and bronchitis. So let's focus on those sleep problems. Misconception number two is that marijuana can help people sleep. So I don't smoke marijuana all the time, I just smoke marijuana so I can go to sleep, some people say. So the problem with that is that if you smoke marijuana to sleep, you're not hitting a deep enough sleep. So studies on marijuana have shown that marijuana being smoked and then you going to sleep, you're not actually hitting the REM cycle, that REM cycle. So you're not getting the rapid eye movement and your body's not actually healing itself. So it might not affect you today or tomorrow or next year or 5 years from now, but it may definitely affect you 10 years in the making when you have serious sleep problems and health problems because of it. So then let's go to that chronic cough and bronchitis and lung problems. Even if we're pro-marijuana, can we agree that anything that's heated and sending moisture and heat into your lungs, probably your lungs don't like it? Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so misconception number three, it doesn't harm your body in any way, definitely is going to harm your lungs. And then if you're smoking at this age or before that regulatory age range that you can legally, then you're going to have those same effects. So anyone starting smoking marijuana in their younger years is going to have the most damaging effects to their emotional growth. So it, for some reason, targets specifically emotional growth. So that's your learning ability. Your way of getting along with other people, building relationships, emotional growth, right? All right, so next, our little lungs have to move. All right, can you overdose on marijuana? No. Most people say no, right? So let's do 2 clicks. All right, so you definitely can overdose on marijuana. The problem that most people have with understanding this is that does overdose equal death? No, right? So do we have any record of anyone smoking too much marijuana and dying from it? No, but we do have record of people smoking too much marijuana. It's called greening out. It does affect the base of your brain, definitely the base of it and the midbrain. And so you definitely can overdose on marijuana. Now when we talk about statistics of marijuana and people dying from it or overdosing or anything like that, you have to understand that the way that we report death is different than what you would think. So if someone smoked too much marijuana, had some kind of underlying heart condition, had that increased heart rate or paranoia or anxiety, and then died from a subsequent heart attack, what is their death certificate gonna say? Died of a heart attack. Did they die of a heart attack? Absolutely, but it was caused by the overdose of marijuana. So we can't really report deaths of marijuana any more than we can report overdosing on nicotine or cigarettes. Someone smokes cigarettes for 20 years and then dies of lung cancer, they died of lung cancer, but we don't have that report for cigarettes. So until we have the long-term reports for marijuana, we just don't know. All right, next. We're gonna talk about vaping. This is probably the quickest part of it. Well, vaping are e-cigarettes. If you've never seen one, they look like this. So vaping are electronic devices that usually have about 3 elements. They have the battery, the heating element, and a place to hold the liquid. They can look very inconspicuous. They can look like USB drives or anything else, just like a regular old stick. They can look like a toy. So going on, we're not gonna watch this movie, unfortunately, even though it's a really good one. But the problem with e-cigarettes nowadays, in this video you would find out, is that more and more doctors are understanding that people are suffering illness and dying from these e-cigarettes. They are not healthier than cigarettes, even though they were marketed to be that way. You can get off cigarettes by smoking e-cigarettes, that's how they were marketed. But they are not safer. So in order to turn that oil or liquid into the vapor that we're inhaling, we have to add about 300 other chemicals, vitamin E acetate, things like that. Those are the things that are causing major problems in our lungs. So in just 2019 alone, there's already been 33 confirmed cases of death of pneumonia via e-cigarettes. So they're very, very dangerous for your lungs. definitely not doing any better than they were on the cigarette front. So with e-cigarette, I think that's all that the video mentions. Yeah, okay, so e-cigarettes, can we get them without nicotine though? Can we get them without THC? Okay, so if we have them without either of those, are they harmless? No, because we just talked about, we can do 2 clicks. So we just talked about that. So we have to have the chemicals in order to turn the vape into a vapor, and that's the part that's making it dangerous. We're not so concerned about the chemicals that we're adding into it, like THC or nicotine, but we're more concerned about our man-made chemicals. Now with nicotine, we can go forward a little bit. All right, so these are what's in a e-cigarette. We definitely flavor them with flavors that appeal to you guys, so popcorn, Laffy Taffy, things like that. Next. All right, so nicotine, here's the problem with e-cigarettes and nicotine. They are not generally conform to a certain amount of nicotine in each puff. So each puff you take, each cartridge you have, you're getting a different amount of nicotine in each one. And studies show us that if you get varied doses of a drug over time, then that creates a more intense high and a more problematic dependence on it, so a quicker dependence on it. So the nicotine that you're getting is extremely addictive already. We know how people are when they don't have their cigarettes, but now we're getting an even worse addiction from those e-cigarettes. Next. As if that wasn't bad enough, if you want to take health problems right off the table, these e-cigarettes are exploding, and most of the time we have no idea why. So the video, if you want to look it up later on your personal phone or whatever, you can see that e-cigarettes explode all the time for no reason. So they can explode in people's pockets when they're right about to vape them. They explode near babies, near other people, on buses. So they're very, very dangerous, and when they explode, I mean they explode. I don't mean they start smoking a little bit, but they explode. So this video was showing the very first death. It was a Texas man, and he was about to vape in his car, and it exploded, and a piece of it, because it essentially turns into a bomb, so a piece of the shrapnel hit his neck and killed him instantly. So since then, in 2019, we've already had about 6 other confirmed deaths and thousands of ER visits from these things exploding. So imagine if it exploded right when you're about to vape. Can you imagine that? You like lose the front of your face. All right, next. So we already know this, so we are eliminating a lot of things. We're trying to go, we're trying to get a couple of things taken off. First of all, Blue, Juul, all of those places, they're not taking their products off of the market. So even though they're exploding, killing people, hurting people, there's been no mass takeoff of the market. So that's pretty dangerous. You can do a couple more clicks, I think. And then the other thing that you might see in the social media is that we're trying to ban that whole make things taste good for kids type of thing. Their goal is that if they can get you hooked early, then they'll have your money for life. That's just the unfortunate truth of it. So we're trying to eliminate that seeking children behavior with Tutti Frutti and popcorn and all that other great stuff. Next. So why do we do this? Essentially, even though we don't like to admit it, it's usually peer pressure. And peer pressure doesn't look the same today as it does any other day or back in my time or even your teacher's time. So peer pressure today is more of an inward thing. Most people cite that they feel pressured to do what their friends are doing just because they want to be accepted, not because their friends even say anything about them needing to do it. So your friends aren't saying, oh, come on, you're weird if you don't do it. That was back in my day. Now in your day, you just feel this overwhelming sense of needing to be accepted, and you kind of do it. Not for everybody, but for the most part. So you kind of ask yourself, if you're feeling that way, if you're feeling like you're going to do something that doesn't align with your morals, then who are you hanging out with? Why are you feeling it? Just sort of do a self-assessment there. Next. So statistics show us, and this is probably the most important part of the video, most youth are not using substances. So even though we say, oh, this is the most widely used, or this is more used, this is how many youth are going to the hospital, on a majority level, most youth are not using today because you're so involved in other things. You're getting ready for college, or you're playing sports, or you're doing these great family activities or community activities, and youth are doing a great job with that today. But the few that are using, it's detrimental for. So it's important to understand that most of your friends are not using, and that standard of, oh, everybody's doing it is not true. Next. So then going back to the healthy lifestyle, because we're pretty much done, we might have a couple minutes for questions. these are the healthy lifestyles we want to look for, so that physical activity, the balanced diet, good sleep habits, keep on top of that stress, and then not adding in alcohol and drugs. Next. And then one more. That's it. Okay, do we have any questions? I think we have like 2 minutes. Yes. So secondhand smoke is from regular nicotine cigarettes or even vaping cartridges. So imagine if I'm smoking a cigarette, I have a filter on mine, right? So I might not get all of it, but if I'm smoking right next to her, does she have a filter? No, so she's getting that secondhand smoke, and that's usually worse than the person who's primarily smoking. Yes. Right. So he said that the e-cigarettes exploding, they have a battery, phones have batteries, anything with a battery can explode. Well, let's look at Samsung. Samsung had phones that were like burning through mattresses before, right? All due to the battery or faulty charging. So that's great. Samsung took all of their phones off the market and then they replaced them with better ones. They did some research, they figured out how they messed up. E-cigarette companies aren't doing that, and it's not a phone. So it's not just that they have the lithium-ion battery, and if it has faulty charging, or if you cut corners with what charger you have, ordered it online, got a cheaper one. Yes, those can cause the explosions, but there's also coils inside of it that are malfunctioning. Those have been cited as the cause for it, and that's not a user error. And then the fact that a phone is not going to turn into a bomb with shrapnel, right? This has volatile liquid in it, so it's going to explode outwardly. And when they do explode, they explode. It's really big. I think I can make it all the way down there. So CBD is different than THC, right? So the THC gives that hallucinogenic effect, all of the brain chemistry effect, but CBD oil or CBD liquid in any form cannot have THC in it, and that's been widely accepted. So vaping any kind of CBD oil or turning it into a vape is not going to be problematic or any more problematic than the THC. What we care about is the chemicals that we're using to turn that into a vapor. So THC, CBD, nicotine, I mean, they're bad to some extent, so is anything else. Too much of vitamins are bad. But it's the chemicals like the vitamin E, acetate, and things like that that we're turning it into a vapor with that are coating our lungs in moisture and not allowing us to get rid of those infections, if that makes sense. Juuling and e-cigarettes in general are not allowed on school campus, so we shouldn't be smelling them at any point in time. We've got 1 minute, so I'm sorry that you did, but we're working to get rid of it. When you get your stomach pumped? Oh gosh. Okay, so an emergency visit where you need your stomach pumped, it means that you've already digested or taken in so much alcohol that your body is pretty much shutting down. So the rest of the alcohol inside your stomach is either going to do one or two things. It's going to come up and you're going to choke on it, or it's going to go down and you're going to continue getting drunker and drunker as time goes on. So in a hospital, pumping your stomach means just that. So they're adding in oils and chemicals into your stomach, and then they're pumping that up to get rid of all of the stuff in your stomach, and then they're running charcoal, pretty much on layman's terms, it's charcoal through your blood, so that they can scrub the alcohol out of your blood.
So when people like overdose, like they throw up like they choke on it, right?
Yes. So if somebody were to overdose on alcohol and they're laying down and they're passed out cold and the vomit comes up, they don't know to turn. They'll choke on it.